Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 230th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing just great, Cameron. How about you?
I'm doing very well. I'm still riding high off of these last two Mizzou basketball wins, and can't wait to talk about them. Not really any football news this week.
I don't think so. Pretty slow.
So that means, like, for the next 2 months or so, this is a basketball podcast.
Don't get too excited now.
This is a basketball podcast. Yeah, but really, we don't have any football to talk about. So it's basketball, recapping the wins, previewing the next couple games. I want to talk about tournament scenarios a little bit. It's that time of year. Before we get into all of that, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a review where you listen to us. Support us on Patreon if you want. Patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod.
You might still be a little hot.
Oh, turn me down?
Mm-hmm. Steaming it up in here.
Okay, turn me down a little bit.
Oh, that's good.
If you're looking for a place to get some of those hot takes out, you know, if you're looking for a friendly group to discuss some of these games with, our Discord is a pretty fun place to be.
Especially when they're winning. Okay, speaking of winning, Missouri beat Iowa State 78-61.
Let's go.
Heck of a game. Let's start it out by talking about those throwback uniforms. What'd you think of those, Kyle?
Yeah, I love them. I mean, how can you not? They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I love the big, like, blocky numbers on the back of the.
Yes.
For some reason, I was loving that. Just the big old numbers on the back.
And that, like, the shiny gold color of the shiny white, the shiny gold. Oh,
Kind of the stripe around the waist.
so good.
It's beautiful.
Are those going to be part of the regular rotation now?
I think they should be.
Yeah.
I kind of advocated for them on Twitter to the Mizzou Hoops account. We'll see. I'll let you know if they get back with me on that. But you know, Mizzou played great in them. Look good. Play good is definitely a real thing.
Yeah.
And so I think they got to be in there.
Was it throwback because it was in a Big 12, old Big 12?
I think that kind of went into it a little bit, but yeah. In this Iowa State game, Isaiah Mosley got a start at home. That was exciting. I really thought that Iowa State was going to control this game more than they did.
Yes, you did.
And Mizzou imposed their style of play, and from start to finish looked like the better team.
Yeah.
Iowa State came in number 12 in the rankings, and it didn't matter.
It is kind of a interesting thing that I think we both probably just assumed that Iowa State was going to impose their will tempo-wise. I'm not really sure why we did that, but I don't know. Does typically the team that plays fast or slow get to usually impose their will more often? But I don't know. But the fast team definitely was the one that took over in this game, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, and pace of play-wise, I mean, there weren't as many. I mean, Iowa State has played in games this year with more possessions. Only 65 possessions in this game. And if we look at some of Missouri's other recent games, like the Ole Miss game, 69 possessions, Alabama 77, Arkansas 72, Florida 71. So this was a little bit slower pace as far as the number of possessions in the game for Missouri, but Missouri was incredibly efficient. Every possession, resulting in points, basically, makes a huge difference. Overall, when Missouri shoots like this, I mean, this is like, we talked about this with the Ole Miss game. When you're shooting lights out from three, do you shoot lights out or do you shoot the lights out?
I think it's just shoot lights out. Is that, like, are you asking me what the phrase is?
Yeah, but you could shoot the lights out.
I don't even know what that means.
Is it just like shorthand now?
That's a good question.
I'll look it up.
Okay,
you shoot so well the lights go off?
I don't know.
Like, what does that even mean?
Well, maybe Cameron can find out.
Shoot the lights out.
Yeah, we shot the lights out.
I mean, that sounds like a bad thing.
Maybe.
If the lights go off in the stadium.
Because you're shooting so well. I don't know how that would happen.
Shoot in the dark. It would just still go in.
Probably. Iowa State hung with Mizzou for most of the first half, but they had no answer for Kobe Brown. Kobe, I mean, this has been a thing now, but he's looked incredible. Like, one of the best players in the country. And I figure when we talk about this Iowa State game and LSU game, we can kind of just talk about them as one thing because they were so similar. But the Iowa State game, Kobe went for 20 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and a steal with only 1 turnover.
Yeah, I think obviously the reason why Kobe goes under the radar sometimes, like including like in recruiting, he was not like lightly recruited, but he didn't blow up either. He's probably like 3-4 star player. And probably part of the reason why he just continues to get slept on is just because of his size, like height wise, and he just kind of looks like he's going to be just the prototypical kind of tweener where he's just not quite tall enough to be effective down low, and he's probably a little too big to be a guard, and so he's just perfectly in between. But also, I guess the upside of those kind of players is when they do kind of find their niche, they can be an unbelievable like mismatch, just a nightmare for other teams. And I feel like that's one thing Kobe's kind of figured out this year is how to exploit, his size inside. And he's definitely not a small guy, of course. I mean, this is a unique case where the dude is just massive, like broad shoulders, and just can bully people down low. And
that's what he's been doing a lot lately.
He has, yeah. So his game has just been so versatile lately, where he's shooting from 3 really, really well. And he's always been able to do that a little bit, but he's been super efficient this year. And then of course has just been super crafty down low, and so he's been able to score from anywhere.
Yeah, it's like if he's got a bigger guy that he can't bully, he just brings him out to the perimeter. And teams have been avoiding that kind of matchup. Like, especially in the LSU game, KJ Williams was not guarding Kobe Brown most of the time. And you'd think you'd want to put your best, like, big man defender on him, but I think he just is bringing those bigger guys out to the perimeter and then making them look silly sometimes.
Yeah.
And a little bit if they try to put a quicker guy on him, then he's just bullying him.
Right.
It's so fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. He just has that perfect blend of the ability to score inside, but also has some guard-like qualities where he can kind of create his own shot if he needs to, and he can dribble around and shoot from 3. So he's dangerous from anywhere.
In the first half of the Iowa State game, I counted made threes, obviously from Kobe, but also Mosley, Hodge, and East. East had that like insanely deep corner 3 where he's like behind the backboard basically.
I don't know that I've ever seen a 3-pointer so far in the corner.
And I think it was later in that same game where Hodge made one on the other end of the floor, like falling away, that was like almost the same way behind the backboard. And Nick Honor had a 3 in the first half. It was just, I don't know. In both of these games, I kept waiting for them to cool off, and they just didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I feel like I've been on the other end of this. Like, we've seen other teams, like not just this year, but just generally watching college basketball. The team you're going up against, it's like, man, they just cannot miss right now. Like, that is the worst thing ever. You're just like, it's going to stop eventually. Yeah. But Missouri, like you said, I was kind of waiting for them to cool off, and they didn't. And I don't know. I mean, what happened in that couple game slump there? I mean, they are either so on or so off, and I don't really know. Is that psychological? Is that just like random?
Know. I mean, right around that time, there was some changes made to the lineups and stuff. So
Mosley kind of wasn't in there yet.
Right.
He was like kind of maybe slowly being eased in.
Yeah. So he was obviously knocking some of the rest off. And then, I think we can see now that Demoy Hodge is a little bit of a streaky shooter. So if he's having a slump, I mean, I would hope that A&M Florida stretch, it would just seem like everybody was kind of slumping at the same time offensively. Yeah, that's really hard to overcome, obviously. And even in the LSU game, Hodge was a little bit quiet on offense, but everybody else picked him up. It was not even a big deal. In the Iowa State game, there was a couple moments. Well, we talked about a couple of them, but Mosley's alley-oop to Kobe Brown that got called off, that was like...
That was weird.
Yeah, I was frustrated by that.
Where Mosley was the passer, and he like ran into the defender.
Yeah. So they called a foul on Iowa State.
Yes.
But it waved off the alley-oop, which I don't know. Like, if he's shooting there, then obviously that's a shooting foul.
Right.
The contact came way after he released the ball for the pass.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Big picture though for that game, though, I thought the officiating was such a positive turn from what we've seen, and I think I even tweeted something about the officiating, but it just happened to be literally right when that play happened. I don't know, it was weird timing.
Oh, yeah.
But that probably was like the weirdest call of the game, but for the most part, I thought the officiating was great, and I'm so sick of those games, man, that have like 50 plus fouls. Like, I don't even care if it like maybe benefits Mizzou a little bit for a team that shoots free throws well. It's just like, that's just such an awful product to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, there was Mizzou had a foul to give. Like, Iowa State was not even in the bonus late in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri had like 4 or 5 fouls called against them going into like the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think they took advantage of that too.
Yeah,
at least once.
Yeah. I mentioned Kobe's stat line. Hodge in the Iowa State game, he was hot. 5 of 10 from 3, 17 points.
Would you say he was shooting the lights out?
He was shooting the lights out.
That's what it is.
Oh,
But
Okay.
I think just shooting lights out has been like shorthand.
okay.
Okay.
The origins are a marksman would shoot a candle and try to basically blow out the candle with his shot without hitting the wax.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
That's
Okay.
from Urban Dictionary, so who knows if it's true.
I'm taking it.
That's gospel.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. So Hodge in this one, marksman-like, 5 of 10 from 3.
Precision.
DeAndre Golston just continues to make incredibly tough shots.
Is he one of the most interesting players you've ever watched?
Yeah, offensively, it's like he knows his game.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about the last few games about how he just like pulling up from 2 and draining them, but then he can also he like making contested threes.
He just has a ridiculous mid-range game, and like, yeah, I mean, he has pulled up from 3 too. Like, I don't know, he doesn't pass, which is fine. He just knows he's got that green light. In fact, I wear this green shirt today just in honor of Golston and his perpetual green light. But it just works. I don't know. He can create his own shot, man.
Yeah, he pump faked the Iowa State game. He pump faked and had that spin move in the lane with the reverse layup.
Oh, okay, that was like
Beautiful.
seriously one of the most beautiful plays I think I've seen all season.
Yeah.
That was from any team.
Right.
Just that spin through the double team and the reverse layup was just beautiful.
As a team, though, against Iowa State, Mizzou shot 14 of 30 from 3 and forced 19 Iowa State turnovers. Iowa State looked sped up, even though the possessions weren't. It wasn't a crazy number of possessions, but
that is true. It was almost like I was getting fooled into thinking that Missouri was like speeding them up, but it was almost just they were turning them over.
Yeah.
And it felt like
it was hectic.
Yes, it was hectic, but yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, they Iowa State was like still using a lot of the shot clock a lot of the time when they were on offense, but it looked like they didn't have a plan, really.
Right.
Like Mizzou was just messing up anything they wanted to do in the half court. And from a team that's really struggled on defense all season, holding Iowa State to 61 points, pretty impressive, I think.
Oh, yeah. I thought Missouri was going to get to like the mid-80s score-wise. Like they were on pace at one point for probably 80 or 90 points, but I think 78 is what they got to.
Yeah.
And 76 was the most points that Iowa State had allowed this year.
Love it.
They still got over that threshold, but I thought they were going to smash through it at one point. But I mean, how nice is that to be able to like be watching Missouri against a top 10 team basically, and not even be worried about are they going to win this? But I'm thinking like, are they going to smash through Iowa State's previous whatever?
Yeah.
Are they? Yeah. So that's a pretty nice feeling that I'm not even worried whatsoever about win loss at the end of the game.
Yeah. I have this like weird thing that I do in my head of like how maybe I've said this before, but when I'm trying to figure out if I can relax late in games, I say that how does it go? The team needs to be up by Missouri needs to be up by more points, more possessions than there are minutes left in the game.
Okay. That sounds like a nice little formula there.
Yeah. So
Possessions. Okay.
Like up by 9, they need to be.
if there's
Under 3 minutes left, you
Yeah.
feel good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll start using that. Does it work?
yeah.
Did it work in the Konzo era?
Yeah, that's when I developed it.
Okay.
Because I started
a little
realizing
damaged.
like these leads are not safe. So I was like, okay, what lead would be safe
Gotcha.
theoretically? And that's
Okay.
what I came up with.
Would you ever squeeze it down a little bit?
No,
Okay. Even for Dennis?
no.
Okay. Okay.
I don't want to be hurt again.
Okay, that's fine.
So then Mizzou beat LSU 85-64. Kobe got it started early with a big 3, and then he 5 of 6 from 3 against LSU. 26 points for Kobe Brown. He just looked like, I don't know, who was this? Like Cassius Robertson. Like just spot up shooter Kobe Brown all of a sudden.
Sometimes he's got that kind of laser shot that just
Barely
just,
gets over the rim.
Yeah. Just barely gets over the rim, but just goes right in somehow. Yeah.
Noah Carter against LSU made 3 of his first 4 threes. Golston had a contested 3 at the shot clock buzzer.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting how they just kind of take turns having their moment. Noah Carter, huge in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game. Like you said, knocked down 3 or 4 3-pointers. He was doing heat checks and stuff. Yeah. And then we just don't really hear from him much the rest of the game, but it's fine. We didn't need to.
Right.
He kind of just passed the baton on to the next guy that was going to do damage for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. So in this one, Hodge was pretty quiet, but didn't matter because we got 14 points from both Carter and Golston, and 12 from Mosley. And I did want to mention Hodge in this game against LSU, quiet offensively, but he was still incredibly active on defense, forcing turnovers. And he just kind of quietly has the assignment of guarding their best guard most of the time. And he's just so active with his hands, timing the steals, just knocking the ball away. And he has the ability to play his on-ball defense right on his man and
without fouling,
not get burned and not foul.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he was Conference Defensive Player of the Year.
For sure. Yeah, some players are definitely not able to do that. When you see them start getting up in somebody's grill, you're like, oh, this is about to be a reach in.
Yes. Or blow by.
Yeah.
So against LSU, Missouri was 13 of 27 from 3 and had 26 assists as a team. That's just fun basketball.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time. I mean, some Konzo teams were good, obviously, went to the NCAA tournament, but
never this fun to watch.
Right. It's his first season. Konzo's first season was this fun because we were making threes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think the fans deserve credit. I mean, this is all we needed.
Yeah.
And especially the folks in Columbia who are going to these games. A winning team, and even if we don't win them all, a style that's fun to watch, and guys that are fun to root for. The building has been lit. Last few games.
That's what the kids say. The LSU game in particular. I know LSU's defense is really quite mediocre, but I felt like Missouri maybe played their best offensive game of the year, just as far as efficiency, just clicking on all cylinders, getting contributions from everyone, just looking absolutely dominant and so confident in every way. The defense, again, like most games, is we'll figure that out. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah. Forced turnovers.
And it was the perfect formula for letting a team get back in the game. Honestly, just quick shots. Sometimes they don't go in, whatever. But we'll figure out defense later. And it makes for incredibly entertaining basketball. Hopefully, that kind of style will come back to bite them at times. But I'm totally on board with how they're playing.
Yeah, Missouri was outscored by 7 in the last 10 minutes of the LSU game, and you could kind of feel that. The shots weren't falling for Mizzou late as often, and one thing that I've noticed about this team this year is when we get up by quite a bit, it feels like we're in garbage time when there's still 8 minutes left in the game, and that's kind of just I think we talked about that early in the season against some of the really bad non-conference opponents, but like,
and they almost don't know what to do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, do
we slow down?
We're in this weird place where it's like, feels like we just have a few more possessions to get over and then this game's over.
Yeah.
But no.
And then it's like, and it's
like a quarter of the game left.
And they're not as good when they and when they get to that little no man's land of 8 minutes left and they're up by 12.
Right.
And we got to slow down.
Yeah. But I was encouraged. I mean, the last 10 minutes weren't the best, but earlier in the game, even in half-court sets, Missouri was running their offense, making good passes, setting things up for Kobe, setting things up for Golston, Mosley. So, I don't know. It wasn't always transition buckets. They got plenty of those, obviously, and LSU's defense is nothing special. But they were able to really manufacture some points when they needed to in the half court.
One thing that drives me crazy is whenever the other team makes like a garbage time 3 at the buzzer because for like the sake of Kim Pom.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is gonna ruin the analytics.
Yeah, we won this game, but we're not gonna move up.
Exactly.
We did exactly what Kim Pom predicted.
Yes, because Adam Miller drained a 3 with 2 seconds left after they stole the ball from us.
Special shout out to the student section.
Yeah,
they've been amazing. Mr. Brightside, we love it. This is a pro Mr. Brightside podcast.
Absolutely.
Also, I have to say, I didn't see this till after the fact, but did you see those tie-dye Sailor logo shirts that they were giving out at the game?
No. You want one?
I want one. I'm putting the message out there. Anybody?
Anyone that wants to donate theirs?
I'll pay for it. Large or extra large of those tie-dye Sailor logo shirts.
Okay.
Hit us up. I will send you money for it.
Okay. Has Dennis awakened a sleeping giant?
He's awakened something in me, that's for sure. Personally.
I mean, these fans, they've always been there, but
we've been hungry for it.
We're hungry. I mean, Missouri is a good basketball program. They got some history, some prestige, if you will. And all we needed was a little bit of just something to get behind.
Yeah.
And man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to, every fan I feel like is going to always compare it to the most recent era or regime. And the first season of Konzo had the same vibes as this. And it couldn't be sustained because of injuries and lack of recruiting. Now, we're doing the same thing now, but we've got a recruiting class already locked up.
Yeah, I don't
Obviously, Konzo had his first recruiting class that caused the excitement of the first season.
Situation, though.
Yes. We're having a fun season now and have a pretty solid recruiting class locked up.
Yeah.
And we know what Dennis Gates can do in the transfer portal and JUCO ranks.
Yeah, I think one of them, the main difference to me is seems like Dennis is one of the most motivated coaches I think I've ever seen. So, and yeah.
I have this tendency to whoever the current Mizzou basketball coach is, they're like my favorite person in the world. And I'll just overlook all flaws. Well, Dennis Gates has no flaws.
Yeah, exactly.
If he had any, I'd overlook them.
Yeah, that's fandom.
Yeah.
It's a
for some reason
the
basketball coach over the football coach or anybody else. I don't know. They just have this place on a pedestal in my mind.
Yeah.
I just want the best for them.
What did you think about Quinn back in the day?
You know, I just know.
You see past some of that stuff.
I loved him. I didn't know him well, but I loved him.
Okay, that's an acceptable answer.
After these 2 wins, Mizzou improves to 17-5 on the season, 5-4 in conference play. Kyle, 17 wins is the most since Konzo's first season, and that is only the second time in the last 9 seasons that Mizzou basketball has had 17 wins or more.
And we got a lot of games to go.
That's true.
Yeah.
We've been talking about Kobe Brown's 3-point shooting. He's up to 48% on the season.
What?
That is 16th in the country, all players.
Do they have to be over a certain shot threshold or something?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. He's over it.
He's over it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Honors at 40%. Hodge is at 39%. So that'll play. We're still 50th on KenPom, like you mentioned. We just kind of doing exactly what we're supposed to do there in the LSU game. Fourth, though, in offensive efficiency, 187th in defensive efficiency. Looking at the bracket predictions, Bart Torvik. So one thing that we should differentiate between these projections is Bart Torvik is projecting the rest of the season and then seeding accordingly. Joe Lenardi and Jerry Palm are seeding the bracket as of right now. So Bart Torvik has Mizzou as a 10 seed after the season plays out. ESPN right now, 7 seed. Jerry Palm, 5 seed.
5 seed versus St. Louis
Yes.
as a 12.
And
That'd be something.
then playing.
Jerry Palm keeps doing that.
Yeah.
He's playing with us.
Yeah, he wants the clicks.
Yeah, he does.
He just wants people to look at those matchups. Yeah. But I'm going to do it because
Yeah, well, we're going to do it.
if they in this hypothetical, if they beat St. Louis in the first round, they would play 4 seed Marquette in the second round, and that would be a very interesting matchup.
Marquette, don't they have number 1 KenPom offense?
Number 1 KenPom offense, yeah, and they're basically Mizzou, but better on offense and better on defense.
Okay.
They even
that doesn't
have,
sound good.
Right. They even have a couple of forwards that are like they have 2 sophomore forwards that are like each about 60% of what Kobe Brown is. So they've got like a future Kobe Brown. They've got 2 of them. Yeah, Marquette's number 8 in KenPom right now. That would be Shaka Smart, how his style of play.
I kind of forgot that he was there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So that would actually be playing St. Louis in the first round and then Marquette in the second round would be pretty fun. Unfortunately, got a long ways to go.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I don't know. I feel like the 8-9 seed. We talk about this stuff every year, but the 8-9 seed is really not where you want to be because you have to face the 1 seed in the second round if you get past an absolute coin flip of a game.
Yeah.
So that's just not a great spot to be.
Might as well take the coin flip of 7-10.
Right. Yeah.
And play the 2 seed.
Even like the 6, I think, is like realistically the best place I think that you want to be in that area. But yeah, I'd take 7 over 8 or 9.
I'd take 10 over 8 or 9.
You almost would.
Yeah.
Honestly.
How are you feeling right now? I feel like Bart Torvik and some of these analytic, like KenPom and everything, the purely computer-based stuff is definitely, I don't know Mizzou is definitely suffering in the rankings there based on the non-conference schedule. Not really having so many quadrant 4 games on your schedule is really hurting in the computer side of things, but the people, Jerry Palm and Joe Lenardi, seem to be overlooking that. It makes me wonder how the selection committee is going to view that. Yeah. Because if Mizzou kind of just plays out their season, wins the games they're supposed to, loses a few more, and maybe wins 1 game in the SEC tournament, then it'll be really interesting to see how the seeding turns out because the computers will be saying on the bubble.
Right. Yeah, I think I obviously have no idea how the committee's going to approach it. I think real people, know Missouri's, best couple of wins, maybe their best couple of losses. That seems to be kind of what's considered is in the meaningful games, how did you fare? And they'll probably just look at those computer rankings on the surface. I don't know that they'll dive into why exactly they're 50th instead of 30th or something with a really good record. Obviously, I think KenPom is a tremendous resource. I also do wonder why, playing a few more quadrant 4 games has such an impact all the way this far deep into the season. And when you look at the strength of schedule, it seems like Missouri's schedule has been a gauntlet for the most part the last month or two. But their strength of schedule is still up in the 60s, 70s. That kind of surprises me, but yeah, I don't know. I think that plays too much of a factor into the analytics, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, if you're a human person looking at Mizzou's schedule, it's very easy to interpret it oh, they didn't really play anybody until the Kansas game, got destroyed, but that was kind of their wake-up moment, like, oh, this is what a real game is like. And since then, every game's been competitive. They've had huge wins, no bad losses.
Right.
It's very easy to, obviously, I'm trying to get rid of my biases, but blind schedule, it's very easy for me to talk myself into, oh, yeah, this team, new coaching staff, they scheduled light early, but then once things got going, they showed who they really are.
Yeah, and I think recency bias will play a huge factor and always does. I mean, what you do in the SEC tournament is big. What you've done recently is always going to play a huge factor in the mind of the committee, whether that's fair or not. So I think that's why the non-conference is almost just like an exhibition for the conference season.
Yeah.
And the second half of the year, when you're playing good teams night in and night out, what kind of team are you? And so hopefully that will be what's more heavily considered.
Yeah, and in a perfect world, the trajectory we're on for the Mizzou basketball program is to build some momentum and some continuity year from year. And then, yeah, you want to be, I mean, I think back to some of the best Mizzou teams that we've watched. Like the 2012 team had some pretty tough non-conference games early. Neutral site, they played at Madison Square Garden. They played a couple games in Kansas City. And that's when you kind of see a team go from, okay, we're just going to get to conference play with a good record so that we can stack wins and make the NCAA tournament, to we're going to really test ourselves early, see what we're made of, and try to stack meaningful wins to be, a top 4 seed in the tournament.
For sure. Yeah, that's when you just have an opportunity to raise some eyebrows, but conference season is really when you've got to be consistent.
Yeah, and I feel like every year we see 10 or so teams that are super hot, have marquee wins in non-conference play.
LSU.
Yeah, and then, finish their conference season with like 6 or 7 wins and just kind of underwhelm and are on the wrong side of the bubble.
Yep.
Luckily for Mizzou, I'm still looking forward to those last 5 games of conference play. 5 winnable games in a row to close out the season is that's an opportunity to really, like you said, have that recency bias and momentum on your side going into the postseason. Before we get to Mississippi State, I wanna ask you something, Kyle. I was watching these 2 games and I struggle with. I just did it. I'm thinking about the last 5 games of the season. I struggle so much with staying in the game that I'm watching and
start thinking
just
big
enjoying
picture.
it. Yeah, I can't help but be like, oh, the season's almost over,
I
and
do that
like,
too.
oh, what does this game mean for 2 games from now?
Yeah, I feel like I do that too. Right after we get a win, like I immediately, look at Kim Pom or the SEC standings and that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, oh, I just can't wait to see how this plays out. And I'm just like, actually, no, just enjoy it, stay in the moment, right here in the now.
Okay, so you can't help me with that problem.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. I'm just an enabler.
Okay, all right, no big deal. Next up, big road game against Mississippi State. Mississippi State, they're kind of one of those teams. Had a good non-conference season and then have really struggled come SEC play. And
then they beat somebody in the Big 12 thing, right?
Beat TCU in overtime, yeah. So they've kind of bounced back a little bit, but they're good. I'm be prepared, folks. Mississippi State, not a bad team. 2 huge wins in non-conference play earlier in the season. They beat Marquette, who I was talking about earlier, and top 50 Utah team. And then in conference play, their worst loss is at Georgia. So everything else, they've already played Alabama twice. They've already played Tennessee twice.
Yeah.
So their schedule has been a little bit front-loaded.
Yeah, I feel like their record is a little deceiving for sure because of how difficult it's been.
And they're favored in 8 of their last 10 games here, including this Mizzou game.
Yeah.
But they're only 2-7 so far in SEC play. You mentioned they did beat TCU in overtime, and then they most recently won a road game over South Carolina. And here we have basically the inverse of Mizzou. Mississippi State 10th. Oh, sorry. Let me start with 52 on KenPom to Missouri's 50. 10th on defense. and 162nd on offense, and 328th in tempo.
Yikes.
Now, the thing that I want to mention about Mississippi State is they are excellent at imposing their style of play. The only time they haven't been able to do that all season is against Alabama and at Auburn. Those were high-pace, high-possession games. Against Marquette, they held Marquette to 55 points. That game, 58-55.
Wow.
I'm sure that was miserable for Marquette's players and fans.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think that kind of sounds the alarm bells for me personally, just because Missouri has such a similar style to Marquette. That Mississippi State was able to kind of mitigate their style of play is a little scary to me.
Yeah. Most recently against South Carolina, that game only had 63 possessions. They had a game earlier that they lost against Florida that only had 61 possessions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, kind of a comparable style of play to Texas A&M, which, if you recall, was probably the worst game that we've watched this season, Missouri play. The referees were a part of that too, but ultimately, just Missouri just didn't. It looked like we were watching a Conzo game, honestly.
Yeah.
Just they were completely taken out of their style of play.
Mississippi State has a really good big man in Tolu Smith. He is their go-to guy on offense, and I can't help but think that he's going to be a problem for Missouri. DJ Jeffries transferred from Memphis a couple years ago. He's kind of a do-it-all forward. He'll bring the ball up. He'll facilitate. He can make a three. He can get to the rim. Shaquille Moore is really fun to watch at the point guard spot. Not really a three-point shooter, but he reminds me a little bit of like Xavier Penson a little bit. And then Deshaun Davis is their only reliable three-point shooter. So they've got a few guys that can make a three, but if anybody's going to get hot and go on a little bit of a one-man run, it's probably either going to be Smith or Davis.
So you're saying most of the guys on their team can't make a three?
Correct.
Like they're just unable to?
Oh, they could do it, I guess.
Even in practice?
In practice, they probably make them.
So they're not going to shoot the lights out?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
They might against Missouri. Everybody has.
If they're going to, it would be in this game, and they're at home. But I think if I'm Mississippi State, the game plan has to be go all in on slowing this game down and just pounding the ball in the paint, letting Smith do his thing down low, and basically be like, this is what we're going to do, see if you can stop it.
Yeah, play your normal game for sure. Yeah, this game is really scary to me. And I feel like it's one just on the surface. You're like, oh, Mississippi State, they kind of suck. We should win this. This is just, everything about this game just screams lost to me. And honestly, one of the biggest reasons why is just because it's on the road. And on the road in conference season, we know how that's gone. We know how it's gone when Missouri tries to win a game at Mississippi State. Have they won at Mississippi State ever since they've joined the SEC? It doesn't feel like it.
No.
That is just not a place that Missouri has had any success. And
Missouri would have to win several years in a row for me to get rid of this mental thing of if we're going on the road to Mississippi State and Texas A&M, maybe it's the Maroon.
And it was Ole Miss too for a while, but they luckily kind of broke out of that this year. But yeah, it's something about those southern schools. Whenever we go there, it just never goes well. And maybe that's just a little bit of some PTSD talking. I don't know. But until I see it, I'm not sure that I can predict a win in an environment like that. Is this the Wednesday night game or Tuesday night?
This is
the midweek game.
This is tomorrow, Saturday.
Oh, okay. I forgot what day it is. It's Friday.
Today's Friday.
Tomorrow's Saturday.
8 p.m., I believe.
Okay. Well, it's not a midweek game. Maybe we'll have a shot. But I'm going to predict a loss. I'm going to say that it's 72-68 Mississippi State. And honestly, if they lost by more than that, I don't know that I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I can't help but reiterate, Mississippi State is still, even though they're 2-7 in conference play, they are absolutely still on the NCAA tournament bubble. They've got a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. They've got to actually win some games that they're projected to win. But
it's crazy that a road game against Mississippi State is way more scary to me than a home game against the top 12 Iowa State was.
Well, now we did predict a loss there.
We did, but I still thought there would be like a better chance that Missouri would win that, and then they came out and played incredible, and I'm afraid that they're gonna not look incredible in this game.
So if I'm just really trying to think of what's the most likely outcome, I would just agree with everything you're saying. So let me think about like if Missouri is going to win this game, then Kobe Brown keeps doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Which he could do that and we still lose if the supporting cast isn't making shots. But let's say Kobe plays a good game and we get a nice contribution from like Mosley Golston, Nick Honor, something like that, where they're knocking down threes. If Missouri, man, it's going to be so hard to get up and down the floor against Mississippi State. I feel like I watched some of their highlights and, man, they just really slow you down. They make you take all the time of your shot clock.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can force some turnovers, if Missouri's going to win this game, it's going to be something like, it's going to be very similar to the Iowa State game. And so that means Missouri wins 74 to 71.
Is that your prediction?
Yeah.
Nice. I hope you're right. I will point out that I don't know Missouri's loss since Isaiah Mosley has been like playing well. Obviously, I think their last loss was Alabama, and Mosley did play in that game, but
No Kobe in that one.
No Kobe in that one. So with pretty much any game that we've had Kobe and Isaiah Mosley playing well, like we have just destroyed the other team. I genuinely think Mosley's making this offense a lot better. He's kind of like helped them get out of the slump they were in. And if Missouri can win this game, this is going to sound kind of dumb maybe, but I genuinely think if Missouri can win this game, it might be one of the most important wins of the entire season because it's coming up. They will prove that they can win on the road in a tough environment against a team that plays totally different than them. And it's a team that I think will end up being right there with them in the SEC standings by the time it's all said and done. Yeah. So they really need to win these games against teams they're going to be close to in the standings.
That's not dumb at all. Yeah, you've nailed it. I mean, this game is the most toss-up game on the schedule until we get Mississippi State back at home. So there's still, I mean, obviously we could still split with them. We get the opportunity later in the season to get back a game that we lost to Texas A&M. We get them at home. But if you're talking about, like on KenPom right now, we're projected to lose against Mississippi State tomorrow and then road games against Tennessee and Auburn. The rest of the games on the schedule are projected wins. So flipping one of these 3 losses to wins, that's huge for seeding, for bubble talk, all of that. Mm-hmm. Do you like a little bubble talk?
I love bubble talk. Except I don't want to be on the bubble.
Oh, that makes sense.
Is Missouri not even on the bubble?
I mean, like, yeah, apparently if you're seeding the tournament right now,
they're in.
Yeah, clearly
safely
off the bubble.
No worry at all on Selection Sunday if it ended today.
Yeah. I'm confused by the disconnect between like ESPN, CBS, and the computers, because on Bart Torvik you can go in and like say, okay, if Missouri wins this game, loses this game, then what does that do to the seeding?
Yeah.
And it's hard. It takes a lot right now to get Mizzou easily on the good side of the bubble.
Yeah.
And I mean, we talked about it earlier. I can only think that the
strength of schedule
is really bringing it down.
And I think the defense is a huge thing. The computers know how bad truly Missouri's defense is.
True.
I don't know that humans that maybe aren't watching as closely as we do understand how bad Missouri's defense is. They just see that we're winning.
Right. And that's fine,
That's fine.
If you're winning,
honestly, maybe that's all that matters.
Yes.
Maybe we're overanalyzing with KenPom. I don't know.
Yeah, and
to some degree.
And that type of stuff is just like, LSU hadn't scored above 60 points so far in conference play, and they scored 77.
Yeah.
So that's going to hurt the defensive metrics. After the Mississippi State game, we're back home against South Carolina, and it was mentioned in the Discord earlier this week that this looks like a classic trap game situation with we're really hyping up this game tomorrow. It's a really crucial game for Missouri's future this season. And then on the other side of South Carolina is road games against Tennessee and Auburn. So I could understand that. Like, South Carolina, pretty bad team, and Missouri could just, it is a midweek game. Missouri could not get up for it. But the good news is South Carolina is bad enough that I don't think it's going to matter.
I was going to say that exact same thing if you didn't. I mean, yeah, maybe we're getting a little overconfident here, but I think it's more about South Carolina than Missouri, honestly. I think South Carolina is just truly terrible.
Yeah, 254th in KenPom, 8-14 so far in the season, 1-8 in conference play. They did go to Rupp Arena and beat Kentucky.
That was really weird, which I'm fine with that also, though.
Yeah. Offense, 249, defense, 245, tempo, 309.
I mean, this is a borderline quadrant 4 win. Like, it's a quadrant 3, I'm sure, but I'm not really sure exactly where the cutoff is. It might be 4. It's probably pretty close.
250 KenPom?
Yeah, at home, yeah.
Yeah. Now, probably nobody knows this unless you're kind of deep in the culture, but South Carolina has a freshman who was a 5-star recruit, number 6 player in his class, forward Gigi Jackson. Have you watched him play very much?
Not a lot.
He's going to be an NBA lottery pick. So, I feel like we see like 1 or 2 teams every year that just have this star
Anthony
player.
Edwards.
Yes, on just an awful team, and they just have this one guy that can actually play. They've got a couple guys that could make some threes. They've got a couple somewhat capable big men. I mean, not everybody's terrible, but I mean, they've got this freshman forward who just does everything and looks like an NBA player on the court, and then they have 8 wins. I'm feeling
that is weird.
Yeah, it is strange.
I'm honestly not sure I knew that.
Yeah,
that he was that highly ranked. I mean, I was aware of him, but I didn't know that he was a lottery pick.
Yeah, probably. Like I was looking at some mock drafts, NBA mock drafts, and he's going like around 10th. Okay. That's got to be. I mean, that's probably the saddest thing that can happen. It is year 1 for Lamont Paris in South Carolina, so he's got some time to get things right and just bringing in a 5-star. But yeah, you mentioned Anthony Edwards. It is a lot of parallels to that Tom Crean Georgia team. And
Edwards has been like phenomenal in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, he was incredible at Georgia, but like Jackson, his not a good offensive rating because he's just like doing everything and is a freshman, so just not very efficient. Like
high usage.
Yes, very high. Like switch him and Brandon Miller at Alabama, and you basically have the same thing. Like he would be, a crucial part of Alabama being incredible, and there's a decent chance that Brandon Miller would be putting up numbers, and South Carolina would still have 8 wins. That would be like the most depressing thing to happen to Mizzou, I feel like. I mean, we've had close to that basically, but that was still a good, fun season. But the hype around like a 5-star player coming in and then your team's just awful. I feel like we see that usually in like the first 1 or 2 seasons of a coach's tenure.
Mm-hmm. That new coach bump.
Yeah. Got to beat South Carolina. Really, that would be a disaster of a loss.
That would be disastrous.
That would be one of the worst losses. I mean, Kentucky is going to. That loss is going to haunt them if they falter even a little bit down the stretch. That loss to South Carolina is going to be like weighing down their resume.
Mm-hmm.
We're both predicting wins there. Should be South Carolina slow pace, but this is like the textbook team that just they are not able to impose anything in any game. So
they don't care.
Game being at Mizzou Arena, I mean, probably Jackson's like, yeah, let's get some possessions in. Let me get my numbers up. He's going to go for 20 and 10.
Yeah.
And Mizzou could still win by 20.
Yeah.
You feeling good as we head towards the home stretch?
I'm feeling great.
We've got those tougher matchups, those road games, Tennessee, Auburn.
Yeah. Opportunities though.
Yeah.
I still think Missouri. I think they're 6th or 7th in the SEC standings. I think that's probably about where they finish. But got a lot of fun basketball coming up.
Yeah, it feels good to be in a position where we can basically just say, "Oh yeah, we lose on the road to Tennessee and Auburn, and it's not a big deal."
Yeah.
It feels good to be banking wins this early in the season. Anything else before we head out of here?
That's it.
Let me know if you got one of those T-shirts and you're willing to part with it. Reach out. I will send you some money. Yeah, that's it. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above: Britt Treese, Brian Smith, Ryan Demore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Tim Keens, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Garofalo, Brandon Hanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.bigcartel.com.
Producer Cameron, out of 10, how much have you enjoyed watching Mizzou basketball this year?
Like 9.
Oof. Love that.
Mm.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next week.